Alright, TSOC, this is part 2, converting a P1 planet into P2 items. I tend to use barren planets because the tax rate is lower. So with that, we'll go ahead and start and get set up. As I've said before, I have already set up the command center in the previous video, so no sense going through that and show you again. So from that, we're going to go here. We've got the command center. I did already upgrade it to the maximum available skills from this tune. So that's where it is. The next thing that I'm going to do is install 2 launch pads. 2 is not required, but again, with the theme of minimizing the effort that I have to put into making this work, what I'm going to do is put in 2 launch pads, because there are 2 P1 components needed for the P2 item. And what I will do is I'll drop all of one type of P1 into one launch pad, all of the other type of P1 item into the second launch pad, and then I don't have to keep up with it. All I have to do to keep things running is keep those launch pads filled up. As they start to run down on supplies, I'll just replenish and everything will keep running. So I've got the 2 launch pads installed. As is typical, create the route between them to connect them so that the goods can flow along those roads. And now that the road is created, go ahead and hit submit. There's no rhyme or reason to this next part, but what I'm going to do here is the advanced industry facilities. What I like to do is just put them in groups, just so it's easy for me to follow and see that I've got the production capacity balanced. So what I'm going to do is do 3 on the top for the left, 3 on the bottom for the left, 3 on the top for the right, and 3 on the bottom for the right, as so. Again, with this, we have to create the roads to connect them, or the routes as they are referred to in the game. I'll go ahead and submit. I'm comfortable with the location of these advanced facilities. Alright, I'm comfortable with the location of the advanced industry facilities. So with that, it's now time to create the routes to connect them. The only thing that's really important to remember is the longer the routes, the more power and energy it uses. So therefore, you want to minimize the distance between the locations. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to do left click, control, click, submit, control, left click, click, submit. You can go more than one at a time, so what I'm going to do is control, left click, 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 control, left click. See, the pattern I'm using here really is just intended to make the shortest number of hops to get to the launch pads. I'm comfortable with that. All of the facilities are connected, so therefore I'm going to submit and commit those changes. So with that, we'll go ahead and install the program to create construction blocks. Left click, construction block, install, launch pad, create route, submit. And then repeat that again for all 6 on the left side. Left click, install, launch pad, create route, submit. And again. And so on again until all 6 are created. This is by far the worst part of the setup. Fortunately, once it's set up, you don't have to recreate them over and over again, only when you change the pattern of the planet. Alright, so that you'll see we've got half of them installed on the left. Once you get into a pattern, you will see that it does tend to go a little bit faster. that, we've got all 12 advanced industry facilities set up, ready to go once they get the input materials going to them. Okay, now we're going to bring the P1 materials to this factory planet so that they can be converted into construction blocks. All I did here is put an equal number of reactive and toxic metals in the Iteron. We're going to undock. This particular factory planet is number 3. So what I'm going to do is warp to the number 3 custom office and then access that custom office. You'll remember that I had 2 launch pads. There's an LG and a QG on this particular planet. The naming scheme does not matter, other than you will be able to distinguish one between the other. For our purposes, it's easy because we're going to put the equal amount in both. So what I will do when this Iteron reaches the custom office, what I'll do is I'll take all of the goods out of the Iteron, move it into the customs office here on the left side, and you'll notice it puts them in a certain order. What I'll do is I'll take the top launch pad and the top P1 item and put it into that top launch pad and then do transfer. Then the bottom one, I will do the remaining. That way, when I'm going in a quick pattern, I don't have to remember which item goes where. I just always know the top one went to the first one, the second one went to the second, and then if it's a more complex planet, the third will go to the third, and so on. So with that, and the fact that they have now been transferred to the launch pad, you can go ahead and dock back up in the Iteron so that it's not just hanging out in space available for somebody to shoot. And
drive
once
active.
that's in warp, we'll go back and look at the planet. Okay, the Iteron is en route back to the Fortizar. In the meantime, you will see now both of the launch pads now have goods in them with these light blue bars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to route what was in this one is the reactive metals. I'm going to route it to all 12 of these advanced facilities. We'll do it the same way as before. We'll say reactive metals, create route to here, create route, submit.
Docking request accepted.
Reactive metals, create route to here, and submit. Again, this is the very clicky part of this process, but once it's set up, you don't have to do it again. All right, in this particular case, these 3 now have reactive metals coming into them, but you'll still see that there are red circles because it is missing the other P1 item that goes into it. Let me get all 12 of these set up, and then we'll come back and add the second P1 item. So with that, we'll just go ahead and start clicking again. Reactive, create route, submit. One thing you'll notice is I tend to do submit when I've done enough that I don't want to recreate this. You do not actually have to hit submit until the end of each step. I'm going to do all 6 of these without hitting submit, just so you'll see the difference. And you can see now we've created the first P1 item into all 12. I've hit submit. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the second P1 item. I'm going to do all 12 and not hit submit. You get feedback on this one when you get it set up correctly. You will no longer have any of the red circles. If you have a red circle, then that's an indicator that you've still got a problem. Notice on that very top one, I still have a red circle. Something is not set up right. I will figure that out in just a moment. Let me go ahead and get all 12 of these done. can see from this, whatever I did wrong to all 6 of these on the right. The easiest way is to click on one with a red circle, and it'll tell you what is missing. It is missing the reactive metals. What I must have done is gotten interrupted over here and not actually created the routes. So we'll go ahead and do that. The good thing is CCP did finally get this set up where it's easy to tell when you've got something wrong because of these red circles. That has not been there all the time. They just added that in the last year or 2 or 3. So that was a good improvement to it. Now you can see from this planet there's no more red circles, so it will be creating construction blocks and deliver them to the launch pads. Once some are created, I'll show you how we'll take them off from the P2 planet, and in the next video when we convert from P2 to P3, I'll show you how that's done as well.